Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Vidyan Karava Vahayi Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahayi. Om Shanti 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Good. Welcome back. We continue our study. Turn this a little bit. We are in the Udyoga Parva, which is the book of the Mahabharata that precedes the battle. The battle begins in the Bhishma Parva. And in this Udyoga Parva, we're seeing various episodes leading up to the battle. We're in the midst of a very important episode right now in which the morality of war is being debated. Remember the context. King Dhritarashtra has sent Sanjaya as an emissary to go and meet with Yudhishthira to try to diffuse the situation and avoid the war. Sri Krishna is also there. In fact, after Yudhishthira receives the proposal from Sanjaya, Yudhishthira doesn't want to make any decision without consulting Sri Krishna. So he consults Sri Krishna, and we saw this at the end of our last class. This is the last verse. Let's just return to this verse to set the context for today, because it's kind of surprising. So what is Sri Krishna's response? So if you remember, Sanjaya came for a peace proposal that would not restore dharma. That is to say that the Pandavas would not regain their portion of the kingdom, but rather would be left out in the cold, so to speak, but they could avoid war. So with that peace proposal in hand, Sanjaya told Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira's response was basically that he can't accept that proposal because it doesn't provide for maintaining dharma. The emphasis here is on dharma. And then he says, I won't make any decision without consulting Sri Krishna. And here's Sri Krishna's response, or part of his response, which you might find surprising. He says, Sri Krishna says, Yada gradhyet parabhumim nirshamsaha vidhi prakopat balam adadanaha. When there are nirshamsaha, cruel people, who gradhyet parabhumim, who covet, who long for somebody else's land, somebody else's property, and when vidhi prakopat, when they ignore moral and ethical guidelines, when they balam adadanaha, when they take that land or property by force, tataha, then Rajñam bhavita yuddham. Then there will certainly be war amongst those kings. Tatra jatam varma shastram dhanushcha. Then you will see varma, shields, shastra, swords, and dhanushcha, and bows. Then you'll see the weapons employed. Now, Sri Krishna's response is not to avoid the war. And that might seem a little odd. Why does Sri Krishna not say, we must find a way, or we must not fight this war must not be fought? Why? Well, one reason is already embedded in the opening lines, and something we've discussed at length, and that is, this is a dharma yuddha. Which means it's not a fight over property. I've joked with you before, long ago. It's not a fight, if you remember back during the first Iraq war and all of this stuff, it was basically a war over oil, access to oil. And sometimes wars are fought over resources and things like oil. Well, this was not a war, the Mahabharata, was not fought over natural resources like oil, nor was it even over real estate. We're going to see that point very vividly in the end of this chapter, that it was not a war over real estate. It was a war to restore dharma. Point one. Since it was necessary to fight this battle to restore dharma, therefore Sri Krishna did not oppose the war. Second reason. Occasionally people will ask questions like this. Questions like, if Sri Krishna is the almighty, all-powerful Ishvara, why didn't he just decide to stop it? Why didn't he just stop the war? Well, these questions often reflect an inadequate understanding of who is Ishvara, God of the cosmos. Ishvara, the God of the universe, is not like your uncle in Cincinnati. That's a little silly. Sorry about that. The point is, your uncle in Cincinnati might choose to visit you over the holidays or might not choose to visit you over the holidays. Your uncle in Cincinnati has a very human and fickle free will. He might do it, he might not. You don't know. Ishvara is not endowed with a fickle, human-like free will. And we've got to stop superimposing human agency upon the God of the universe. You got up this morning and you decided to come for class. Do you think Ishvara gets up in the morning and he decides what he's going to do? But that's the kind of thinking that's surprisingly prevalent. We have to get rid of that thinking. Ishvara is not like your uncle in Cincinnati. What is Ishvara's will then? Ishvara's will is that good karmas should receive good results and harmful karmas should receive undesirable results. That is Ishvara's will. Ishvara is karma pala data. He is the one who ensures that every deed will receive its appropriate result, either now or at some time in the future. That is Ishvara's will. Ishvara does not have a fickle human will, which would, in fact, if he did, just to muse about this for just a moment, can you imagine Ishvara? I need to preface the statement. To some of you are in a workplace where your boss is a micromanager, right? Always interfering in everything you're trying to do. So if Ishvara had a fickle, human-like free will, he would become a micromanager, interfering in everything that happens. Ishvara is no micromanager. Ishvara endowed you and me with free will by his power of creation, and then with Ishvara's power of will, he ensures that when we use our free will to commit good deeds, we get desirable results, and he ensures with his free will that when we use our free will to commit harmful deeds, we receive undesirable results. Ishvara is not going to interfere independently in human affairs. If he did, he would be like your uncle in Cincinnati. You get it. Now, last part of this, and then we'll return to the text, is, well, Ishvara is all-powerful. Suppose we pray, oh God, may there not be a war. Please, make the war go away. And if you argue, it's an interesting argument, your prayer is a karma, and Ishvara is bound to give you the result of that karma. So you're praying for an end to war, may there not be a war, and we're going to see at the end of this chapter, it concludes with a very beautiful prayer of Yudhishthira, a very beautiful prayer that there should not be war. You'll like that verse very much. So why do these prayers not have the desired effect of avoiding war? Well, in our meditation session, I made reference to the fact that prayer is a karma, but the power of any karma is relative. That is, you can have a really strong karma with a really strong result, or a weak karma with a relatively weak result. Just like, you can go to work 1 day a week and you get a small paycheck. You go to work 5 days a week, you get a bigger paycheck. The amount of karma is relative to what you invest in it. You get that point. So look at this. In order for your prayers to prevent war, how strong should those prayers be? That's the point. Our prayers have effect, but in order to avoid a war, the prayers would have to be of such intensity. And perhaps if everyone in the country were praying, may there not be that war, I think there would not be a war if every person were praying in that way. But generally, prayers are not so widespread. Prayers are not so intense. So anyway, for these reasons, Sri Krishna allows the war to take place. The war is, after all, karma phala. In fact, the Kauravas, Duryodhana in particular, have committed horrible deeds for which they must receive the results, right? So how will they receive the results for their misdeeds? On the battlefield. So the battlefield is the bhumi, the region where they will receive their karma phala. For that reason also, Sri Krishna does not intervene. Sri Krishna allows the war to take place. Okay. That being said, Sri Krishna goes on to make some interesting comments, some very lovely poetic comments here. Let's see what he says. This is in a long meter. Suyodhano manyumayo mahadrumaha. Suyodhano manyumayo mahadruma. Skanda karna shakunistasya shaka. Sanga karna shakunistasya shaka. Dushasana pushpapale samriddhe. Dushasana pushpapale samriddhe. Mulam rajam dhritarashtro manishi. Mulam rajo dhritarashtro manishi. Suyodhana is Duryodhana. Same thing. Duryodhana is one who is difficult to defeat in war, and Suyodhana is one who is skillful in war. They both refer to the same person. And here Sri Krishna in this verse and the following one uses a very poetic image or metaphor, comparing first in this verse Duryodhana, in the next verse Yudhishthira. He compares the two. And he compares both of them to trees. So he says, Suyodhana, Duryodhana, is Mahadrumaha. He's like a great tree. A big tree, a giant tree. What kind of tree? Manyumayaha. A great tree made of anger. Duryodhana is like a great tree of anger. And here the poetic metaphor is explained. What are the skanda? What is the trunk of that great tree? The trunk of that tree of anger is karnaha. And what are the shakaha? What are the branches of that tree of anger? Shakunihi. Tasya shaka are the branches of that tree. And then pushpa and pale, what are the flowers and fruits? Samriddhe, which are blooming on that tree. Who are they? Dushasana, is Duryodhana's younger brother. And finally, that tree, that mighty tree, could not rise so big if it didn't have very strong, deep roots. As you know, a tree can only rise as tall as its roots are deep. So with shallow roots, a tree cannot rise tall. Only with very deep roots can that tree rise tall. This is a huge tree, a tree of anger. What are the deep roots? Because that tree of anger exists. Moolam, the roots are, of course, Raja Dhritarashtraha, Sri Krishna says. And Sri Krishna adds a little editorial comment. He says, Dhritarashtra, who is a Manishi, not very clear thinking. He's not intelligent. He doesn't think clearly. Now, it's nice poetry, but there's a pretty important message here, and that is every person, whether they're a very positive force in the world or a very negative force in the world, these people are not independent agents. They are effective because of those with whom they're associated. So if you think in modern history, Adolf Hitler surrounded himself with these... It's funny to say, he surrounded himself with geniuses, evil geniuses. The history books record, Hitler was not very smart. He made a lot of terrible mistakes. Well, he lost the war. Hitler was not so intelligent. He surrounded himself with these really powerful, intelligent people, and perhaps the havoc he caused was because of them. So only because of the people he surrounded himself with was he able to do such horrible harm. In the same way, Duryodhana was supported by Karna, by Dushasana, by... Who else does it say here? Dushasana, Karna, and of course his roots being his father, Dhritarashtra. If he didn't have his father's support, nothing would have happened. Okay, so having given us this poetic image of Duryodhana as a great tree of anger, now Sri Krishna gives us an image of Yudhishthira as a great tree of dharma. If Duryodhana is a tree of anger, Yudhishthira is a tree of dharma. Yudhishthiro dharmamayo mahadrumaha. Yudhishthiro dharmamayo maha. Skandorjuno bhimasenosya shakaha. Skandorjuno bhimasenosya. Madri putrau pushpapale samruddhe. Madri putrau pushpapale. Moolam tvaham brahma cha brahmanascha. Moolam tvaham brahma cha brahma. As I said, Yudhishthira is a mahadrumaha. He is a great tree. What kind of tree? Dharma mayaha. A tree made of dharma, a great tree of dharma righteousness. What is the trunk of that tree? The skanda, the trunk of that tree is Arjuna. What are the shakaha of the branches of that tree? Are Bhimasena. Bhima is the branches. And who are the pushpa and pala, the flowers and fruits, which are samruddhe, which are bloomed? Madri Putrao, the sons of Madri, Nakula and Sahadeva, are the fruits and flowers. And then once again, the root is all important. Everything depends on that root, the moolam. Excuse me. So, what is the moolam for the tree of dharma, which is Yudhishthira? Sri Krishna says, moolam tu aham. He says, I am the root. Of course, Sri Krishna speaks as Ishvara here, as a god of the cosmos. So Ishvara is the root of dharma, the root of the tree of dharma. But not only aham, he says, not only I am the root, along with Brahma and Brahmanaha. Here, a little tricky. Brahma here means the Vedas. That's not an uncommon meaning. We have to get the right meaning and context. So what is the root of the tree of Dharma? Aham, Sri Krishna says, I am the root, along with Brahma, the Vedas, and Brahmanaha, the Brahmanas who are the teachers of the Vedas. So I am the root, Sri Krishna says, along with the Vedas and those who teach the Vedas. The root is all important. Many of you have raised children. Who is the root? Your children are like trees growing, and you are those of you who have raised children, you are the roots. According to your nature, your children grow. Your children grow tall, but your children grow according to the nature of the roots. Every parent has witnessed this. So this was the case for both Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. Now, Sri Krishna concludes his message to Sanjaya. So Sanjaya now is going to be given some messages to convey back to King Dhritarashtra. And here Sri Krishna gives his message to Sanjaya to be conveyed to Dhritarashtra. We're back to the shorter meter right now. Stita shame mahatmanaha, stita shame mahat Pandava dharmacharinaha, Pandava dharmachar Yodha samriddha stadvidvan, Yodha samriddha achakshita yatha tatam, achakshita yatha tatam. In the second line, Pandavaha. The Pandavas are Dharma Charinaha. The Pandavas are those who follow Dharma. The Pandavas always follow Dharma. They are Mahatmanaha. They have generous hearts. They are big-hearted. They are also wise, we could take it. And they are Stitaha Shame. They are, at present, they are Stitaha, established, Shame, in peace. Right now, the Pandavas are inclined towards peace, he says, right now. On the other hand, Yodha Samruddhaha. On the other hand, they are Yodhaha, they are warriors, they are fighters, and they are Samruddhaha. They're ready. They're ready for a fight. They are established in peace, but ready to fight. Which means Sri Krishna's message to Dhritarashtra is, it's up to you. It's not up to the Pandavas. It's up to you. If you follow Dharma, the message from Sri Krishna via Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra, the message is, Dhritarashtra, if you follow Dharma, the Pandavas will remain established in peace. If you fail to follow Dharma, if you fail to give the Pandavas their fair share of the system of the kingdom, then they are samriddhaha. They are ready for war. Tadvidwan achakshitaha. Tadvidwan, he addresses Sanjaya as wise one. O Sanjaya, Tadvidwan, O wise one. Achakshitaha, you tell this. Please tell this message to Dhritarashtra, yatha tatam. Exactly as I have told you, faithfully you relate this message to King Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya replies, Sanjayo vacha, We're back to the longer meter. Amantraye tva naradeva deva, Amantraye tva naradeva, Gachamyaham pandava swastite stu, Gachamyaham pandava swastite, Kachinna vacha vrajinam hi kinchita, Kanchinna vacha vrajinam hi kinchita, Ucharitam me manaso bishangat, Ucharitam me manaso bishang. So he says to Sri Krishna, Amantraye tva, Naradeva Deva, O God of gods and people, Naradeva Deva, O God, Amantraye tva. I bid you farewell, I take your leave. Then Sanjaya turns to Yudhishthira. So they've been having this conference, Sanjaya, Yudhishthira, and Sri Krishna. So turning to Yudhishthira, Sanjaya says, Gacchami aham Pandava. Pandava, O Yudhishthira, Gacchami aham. I'm going now. Swastite astu, blessings unto you. I'm going now, blessings unto you. And he is before he goes, he's a little concerned that he might have said something wrong, something kind of impolite, something that was out of place. So he says, Kachin navacha ucharitam me. We have to connect that to the bottom part. Ucharitam me vacha. Anything ucharitam, said. Vacha ucharitam. And by any words I have spoken, by any words I have spoken, kachin navrajinam nahi kinchit. I hope there was no, vrajinam means sin, in this case offense. I hope kinchit vrajinam, I hope no offense was committed by vacha ucharitam me, by any of the words that were spoken by me. I hope I haven't committed any offense. And why would Sanjaya think like that? Well, manasaha abhishangat, because he admits that his mind is abhishanga. Abhishanga means affected. Remember, Sanjaya is whose charioteer? Dhritarashtra. So, Sanjaya may have some bias. He admits it. He says, my mind might be biased towards Dhritarashtra. And he says, I hope that because of any bias in my mind, I hope I haven't said anything offensive to you, he says to Yudhishthira. And he takes leave. Yudhishthira replies, Yudhishthira vacha, Yudhishthira. Sanjaya doesn't leave yet because Yudhishthira has something more to tell him. Anugnyata Sanjaya swasti gacha, Anugnyata Sanjaya swasti Nano karshira priyam jatu kinchata, Nano karshira priyam jatu kinchata, vidmascha tvate chavayam cha sarve, vidmascha tvate chavayam cha sarve, shuddhatmanam madhyagatam sabhastam, shuddhatmanam madhyagatam sabhastam. O Sanjaya, anugnataha, I give you leave. You may go now. Swasti gacha. Swasti, blessings unto you, and with my blessings, go. Gacha. But he says, and he further says, naha, that no is naha. Naha, for us, na akarshihi, you didn't do kinchit apriyam, anything offensive, anything unpleasant, jatu, at all. You didn't say anything offensive to us at all. So he put Sanjaya at at ease. And further he says, vidmaha tva, vidmaha vayam sarve vidmaha. We have to connect that. Vayam sarve, all of us, vidmaha tva. We all know you. We all know you how? Shuddhatmanam, to have a pure heart. Here it has that meaning of having a pure heart. We know that you have a pure heart, and you are a pure-hearted madhyagatam, intermediary You are a pure-hearted intermediary, sabhastam, in the court. In the court of Dhritarashtra, you are pure-hearted means unbiased. We know that you are unbiased and pure-hearted, and you're not going to be biased in anything you say. Vayam sarve vidmaha, we all know you to be thus. Te cha, and they also know you to be thus, which means the Kauravas also know. Everyone knows that you are a fair and honest person, Sanjaya, so therefore you don't have to worry about anything that you've said. Now, at the end of negotiations, there's always one last bid, last chance negotiation, desperate measures. So we see that here at the very end. Idam punar vachanam dhartarashtram, idam punar vachanam suyodhanam sanjaya shravayetaha, suyodhanam sanjaya shravayet, tadasvava shakrapuram mamayva, tadasvava shakrapuram mamayva. Yudhyasva bharata mukhya vira, yudhyasva bharata mukhya vira. Punaha, but again, idam vachanam, this one more thing. In fact, punaha idam vachanam, this one more thing. Shravayetaha, the end of the second line, you must convey. Idam punaha vachanam, one more thing. Sanjaya, O Sanjaya. Shravayetaha, you must convey to whom? Suyodhanam, Duryodhanam, who was Dhartarashtra, the son of Dhritarashtra. One more thing you must convey to Dhritarashtra. I'm sorry, to Duryodhana, the son of Dhritarashtra. What is that? Dadasva shakrapuram mama. Dadasva, you must give shakrapuram. Shakra is one of the names for Indra. Shakrapuram is Indrapuram, is Indraprashtam, is their kingdom. Remember that after the, we have to remember all these details, after the second, there were 3 dice games, and I get them confused. I think after the second dice game, Bhishma divided the kingdom up in 2, and gave half the kingdom to the Kauravas, Hastinapur, and he gave half the kingdom to the Pandavas, Indraprastha, the modern Delhi. So that division was made. So Indraprastha here is called Shakrapuram. Shakrapuram Mama. He says, my kingdom of Indraprastha, Tadasva. This message is for whom? Not for Dhritarashtra. This message is for Duryodhana. O Duryodhana, the message being relayed via Sanjaya. Dadasva va, either you give Shakrapuram Mama, either you give me my kingdom back, or Yudhasva va, or fight. Yudhyasva. So either Dadasva, either you give me my part of the kingdom back, va, or Yudhyasva, or you will fight me. And he ends by acknowledging the might of his enemy. Bharata Mukhya. He addresses Duryodhana as Bharata Mukhya, the greatest of the country. And Veera, he addresses Duryodhana as a mighty warrior. So, O mighty warrior, O greatest of the country, here are your choices. You either give me back my part of the kingdom, or you fight. Now, that sounds very final. It's not. As you'll see in the next verse. So it does. I mean, he's absolutely final. He says you have choice A or choice B. Choice A, you give me back my part of the kingdom. Choice B, you fight. But he's not done. So he continues. Yato chitam swak. We're back to the short meter. Yatochitam swakam bhagam, yatochitam swakam. Labhe mahi parantapa, labhe mahi. Rajaika desham api naha, rajaika desham api. Prayatsha shamamichatam, prayatsha shamamich. Yatha uchitam swakam bhagam, labhe mahi parantapa. He's still addressing Duryodhana via Sanjaya. Parantapa, O mighty Duryodhana, labhe mahi, we should be given what? Swakam bhagam, our part of the kingdom. You keep Hastinapur, you give us back our part, Indraprashta. Yatha uchitam, as it is appropriate, as Bhishma had divided up the kingdom long ago, you give us back our portion, we should receive that. But now Yudhishthira demonstrates that even though he said something very absolute and final, now he softens his position a little bit. Listen, he says, Raja ekadesham api naha prayacha. He says, api prayacha, even if you give naha to us, even if you give to us ekadesham, if you give us one part, Raja ekadesham, if you give us even one part of the kingdom, shamam ichatam, then there's still hope for peace. Now, in prior verse, he was very absolute. He says, you either give us our kingdom or you fight. Now he's modifying his position. He says, even if you give us part of the kingdom that we own, if you give us part of Indraprashtam, even then there's a possibility for avoiding war, for having peace. And then it becomes very detailed. What do you mean by give us part? Give us part of the kingdom, and he specifies. Bhratranam dehi panchanam, bhratranam dehi panch, graman panchasuyodhana, graman panchasuyo, shantir nostu mahaprajna, shantir nostu maha, jnatibhih saha sanjaya, jnatibhih saha sanjaya. So he gives a very specific proposal. Suyodhana, O Duryodhana, Graman in the second line, Graman Pancha, 5 villages. Dehi, give. You give us 5 villages. Not the whole king, not the entire Indraprashta. You give us just 5 villages. Why 5 villages? Bhratranam Panchanam, for each of the 5 brothers. There are 5 brothers, so you give 5 villages for each of the 5 brothers, and in this way, Shamam Ichatam, at the end of the prior verse, in this way we can avoid war, we can gain peace. This is a very dramatic change of position. 2 verses back, Yudhishthira made a very absolute position. You give us our kingdom back or you fight. It's one or the other. And now he says, even if you give us back a small portion of the kingdom, even then we can find a way then to avoid war. This is so significant in a number of ways. First of all, a few moments ago I said it wasn't like a modern battle over oil or real estate or resources. Doesn't this clearly show it wasn't a battle over real estate and resources if they're willing to negotiate away most of the kingdom and retain only 5 villages for each of the 5 brothers? It clearly was not a battle for the sake of the kingdom, for the sake of real estate. Very clear? Extremely clear. This is one of the main arguments to demonstrate that it was indeed a dharma yuddha. It wasn't a battle over the kingdom, it was a battle to restore dharma. And to restore dharma, what do we have to do? The Pandavas have been the subject of adharma. They have been victimized by the behavior of Duryodhana, and they have been totally deprived of their kingdom. So part of the process of restoring dharma is to restore something to each of the 5 Pandavas, not necessarily the whole kingdom. This really shows someone with a big heart. When I use that expression, immediately I think of Pujya Swami Dayananda, who I think epitomized someone with a big heart. And he taught that also. He said, when you are in a conflict, the way to resolve the conflict is to have a big heart, which he explained like this. When you are bigger than the conflict, it won't look like a conflict anymore. Generally, conflicts seem big and threatening and menacing, and that's why we get so stressed out by those conflicts. And when we're stressed out by the big menacing conflict, when we're under stress, do we make better decisions or worse decisions? Clear, right? This is the human problem. Generally, conflicts bring out the worst in us, and that's true about us as individuals, that's true about us as communities, and sadly it's true about us as countries. Conflict tends to bring out the worst in us. But one who has a big heart, to use Pujya Swamiji's language, or to put it in Vedantic terms, when you know, just few minutes of pure Advaita Vedanta, when these teachings lead you to recognize that you're okay no matter what, that your well-being, your inner peace, doesn't depend on the situation at all. This is the key to the teachings of Vedanta. This is the real phala, the fruits of the teachings of Vedanta, is the discovery that your inner peace and contentment does not depend at all on the situation. Your inner peace and contentment is already guaranteed by your true nature as Satchidananda Atma, presuming you've discovered that. So for one who has discovered their true nature, using the teachings of Vedanta, one who has discovered that they are Satchidananda, that they are full and complete, and further, that their fullness and completeness cannot be taken away. They cannot be deprived of that inner fullness and completeness. You can take away the Pandava's kingdom, but you can't take Satchidananda Atma away from Yudhishthira. So here, Yudhishthira has such a big heart, he doesn't feel compelled to get back every square foot of the kingdom that was unjustly taken away from him. Because of the bigness of his heart, he doesn't feel threatened by that situation. Because of the bigness of his heart, feeling threatened doesn't bring out the worst in him. He doesn't feel threatened. Therefore, the worst in him doesn't come out, but rather he is able to think clearly and come up with a proposal, in American English, a last-ditch effort. Nice expression. A last-ditch effort to avoid the war. He proposes that they not receive the whole of their kingdom of Indraprashta, but instead, he says, we would accept even the mere token of 5 villages given for each of the 5 brothers. And in this way, Shamam Ichchatam. In a prior verse it says that that peace can be hoped for in this way. What a really significant statement. Further, it shows, this is a recurring theme in the Mahabharata. You may not have noticed it. we generally think about firm commitment, firmness, and decisiveness. We generally see that as a quality, this firmness and commitment and decisiveness. And sometimes people will point at Bhishma's character in the Mahabharata and say, what a glorious, by the way, I'm making a counter-example. Watch out. I'm making a counter-example. So people will point to Bhishma and say, what a glorious example of someone whose determination and decisiveness was so powerful and so clear, he made a vow to his father not to interfere in the activities of the kingdom. That was one of the conditions for his father's marriage. I don't want to tell you the whole story. Most of you know the story well. So anyway, he made this commitment to his father, several-fold commitment, that he wouldn't get married and he wouldn't take over the kingdom and he wouldn't interfere in the matters of the kingdom. He made that commitment and people praise Bhishma. Look how great he is no matter what. When everything was going wrong, when the kingdom was falling apart, when it was leading up to war, in spite of all of that, he held firm to his vrata. And people hold that up as a sign of glory. The message of the Mahabharata is the opposite. It shows, the story of the Mahabharata demonstrates that it was Bhishma's rigidity that led to war. That's the message of the Mahabharata. It doesn't glorify Bhishma's rigidity. It criticizes his rigidity by showing how that rigidity led to war. According to Dharma, he should have gone back on his vrata. And if you say, but Swamiji, going back on vrata is papa. Yes. But it's a worse papa karma to allow a war to take place. Which is worse, going back on his word or allowing this terrible war to take place? Please note, Bhishma was fully empowered to prevent this war. He didn't. Which is worse, going back on his word or allowing this terrible war to take place? So the message is that Bhishma's rigidity is demonstrated, that the terrible consequences of his rigidity is demonstrated by the entire arc of the story of the Mahabharata. It shows how his rigidity directly led to this horrible war. So in that sense, that rigidity is being criticized. Now here we're getting the opposite. We have in the character of Yudhishthira. By the way, this observation I just made is not to criticize Bhishma. Bhishma, who was a great and glorious character in the story, absolutely a great and glorious character, but it shows great and glorious characters have some defects. No one is perfect. Even Bhishma was not perfect. He made mistakes, and his rigidity is one of those few mistakes he had. So the Mahabharata presents the complexity of characters. Bhishma, the great character that he was, is shown as having some defects, and the worst of the characters are demonstrated as having some good qualities. Duryodhana had a tremendous value for loyalty. And he had other good qualities as well. So the best characters have some defects. The worst characters have some good qualities. This is life. Life is not black and white, as you know very well. So the Mahabharata shows that complexity of life through the complexity of the characters. Now, finishing up this part. Here, Yudhishthira is presented as someone who doesn't have that problem of rigidity. If Yudhishthira was as rigid as Bhishma, would he have made this proposal for 5 villages? No way. Yudhishthira could have said, hey, Bhishma made that decision to give us half the kingdom, Indraprashta. Therefore, we must have our half of the kingdom. It is rightfully ours. You give us our half of the kingdom or fight. He already said that, but then he comes up with a second position. He says, Shamam Ichatam. It is still possible to find peace if you just give us back a portion of the kingdom that has just 5 villages, very powerfully demonstrating the absence of rigidity, which is a tremendous value. Bhishma's rigidity led to war. Here, Yudhishthira's absence of rigidity is an attempt to escape war. Has a pretty important message for us all, because there are times when we tend to get rigid and dig, what is it, dig in our heels? I think that's the expression. We dig in our heels and we just, and we have this sense of righteousness. But I'm right. This is not fair. You know, we get this sense of right, the expression is righteous indignation. And the sense of righteous indignation is when we kind of twist our understanding of dharma to justify our rigidity. Dharma is dharma. But to use dharma to justify our rigidity is not a wise thing to do, right? Rigidity is a problem. So, if we can come up with any number of arguments to justify our position, and your position is justified, absolutely. Whatever is your position, it is true, it is justifiable, fine. Rigidity is still a problem. So the message here, drop that rigidity. And on the other hand, if we can develop that big-heartedness that Yudhishthira has, if we can be bigger than the situation, if we can, in fact, good example here, Yudhishthira, nice American expression, Yudhishthira is thinking outside of the box. He is, right? Inside the box means either you give us our kingdom or we fight. That's thinking inside the box. Thinking outside the box is, give us back part of the kingdom. That way we can avoid war. Well, you can only think outside of the box if you can think clearly. You can only think clearly if you're not feeling threatened and stressed out. So here's where Vedanta plays a very, very big part. Vedanta can give you that sense of inner security. You are okay no matter what, recognizing that whatever happens, Satchidananda Atma is the truth of who you are. It remains full and complete. With this understanding, you need not feel threatened. You need not feel stressed out. If you're not threatened and stressed out, you're more able to think outside of the box and find a solution. To avoid the rigidity. Rigidity lives inside the box, right? Rigidity lives inside the box. To get outside of the box is to drop that rigidity. Okay, let's finish this verse. So his proposal then, Suyodhana, in the second line, Graman Pancha, 5 villages, Dehi, give. Bratranam Panchanam, for the 5 brothers, you give us just 5 villages. In this way, we can avoid the war. This is the conclusion of his message for Duryodhana, which is going to be related via Sanjaya. Now he addresses Sanjaya personally. He says to Sanjaya, you see the very last word of the verse, O Sanjaya, Shantihi naha astu mahaprajna. Mahaprajna, O wise one, O wise Sanjaya, astu, may there be, naha, for us, may there be shantihi. May there be and here shanti here means not inner peace. It means no war in this specific context. May there be peace, may there not be war between the Pandavas and Kauravas. He says, may there be shantihi, jnatibihi saha, with our relatives. So with our relatives, meaning with the Kauravas, may there be peace between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and that's his statement to Sanjaya, leading us to the very last verse of this portion. And this is his prayer for peace. He's talking to Sanjaya still, but it very much is in the form of a beautiful prayer from Yudhishthira. Brata brataram anvetu, brata brataram pita putrena yujyatam, putra putrena smayamana samhayantu, smayamana samhay, panchala kurubhi saha, panchala kurubhi sata. Brata brataram anvetu. Anvetu means to follow or to join. Brata, a brother, should anvetu, be joined with, united with brataram, brother. May brother be united with brother. Of course, the Pandavas and Kauravas were half brothers. So this is Yudhishthira's prayer. May brother be united with brother. May Kauravas be united with Pandavas. Pita putrena yujyatam. May the father, yujyatam, be united, putrena, with son. May father and son be united. This could be a kind of like a general prayer, or if you look for a specific meaning, there's definitely a problem between Dhritarashtra and his son Duryodhana. So maybe it's a prayer for those two to have their problems resolved, or in general. And my sense is it's more of a general prayer. May brother be united with brother. May father be united with son. And samayantu, may they all gather together. Smayamanaha, smiling. May everyone be together. What a nice message for this holiday season. Everyone is going to holiday gatherings. So may everyone get together smiling. By the way, in many families, there are conflicts, plenty of conflicts. I don't need to tell you. So when those family gatherings take place, Yudhishthira's prayer is may everyone, samayantu, may everyone come together, smayamanaha, with smiles on their faces, with joy and happiness, may they get together. And who should come together? Panchalaha kurubihi saha. Panchala, the Pandavas here are called Panchala. They're married to Panchali, Draupadi. So they're called here Panchalaha. The Pandavas should be united, Kurubihi, with the Kurus. They should be united, Samayantu, may they be together, may they be united, Smayamanaha, in joy and happiness. So it really is a prayer that Yudhishthira concludes this chapter. He's saying it to Sanjaya, but it's a very beautiful prayer. It's a prayer for peace. May brother be united with brother. May father be united with son. May enemies be united in happiness and joy. So with this, we end this current section, which is the debate prior to the war. When we meet next time, we start the next section. It's a very fascinating section called Vidura Niti. Some of you have heard about this. Vidura Niti. Niti literally means law. But what it is, it's the advice that Vidura gives to Dhritarashtra. Very potent advice given to Dhritarashtra. And of course, it's advice that can apply to all of us. So we'll begin that section when we meet next time. I'll mention some announcements in just Right now, I'll mention these announcements. Next time is not next Saturday, because next Saturday we are celebrating New Year's Day. So instead of celebrating on New Year's Day itself, which is Sunday, we are going to celebrate this year on Saturday, which is New Year's Eve. I know it sounds funny, but that's what we're doing. So next Saturday, please come at 11 o'clock for the program. We'll start with puja and chanting. I'll have a nice message to share with you. Afterwards, there'll be prasad. If you're coming, please sign up on the counter. Sign up to bring a dish of food. Please, everyone, bring a dish of food. We need to fill out that sign-up list so we make sure we have enough food to share with everyone. So we'll have a great celebration a week from today. And then we'll continue this text the following week. Also with the holidays, there'll be no program tomorrow, Sunday, Christmas Day, and obviously no programs on January 1st. Another announcement. We canceled the last class. It was all ice on the roads and bad weather. You know that we have an email list that we use for weather-related cancellations. So to make sure you receive those emails, if you don't already receive them, go to our website. On the home page, there's a place to sign up for those emails. That way you can be informed in advance if there's a class canceled due to weather or illness. One more thing, I have a request. I have a project I'm considering which requires video of the Bhagavad Gita portion of the Mahabharata. Now, I already have a copy of the B.R. Chopra, the Mahabharata series. The video quality is not very good. I understand that this Ramanand Sagar did a series called Krishna. So if any of you have the DVDs for that Ramanand Sagar series called Krishna, a portion of that will be the Bhagavad Gita, which is what I'd like. If you have a copy of those DVDs, could I borrow them, please? So please drop them off. Put your name and phone number if you happen to have that, and then that can help me with this project. Thank you. Library will be open after class. We'll conclude with our prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.